Good morning, guys. Today is going to actually be the first day of my vlog. I know most of the people are going to subscribe thought that I was going to do it earlier. It's because we had technical difficulties with software and computing. But that's taken care of. So today, October 23rd, the first day of my vlog. And I'm going to be doing it every day from now on. I can only do 10 minutes, so I got to cut most of this stuff short. Try to get all the best things. Hopefully I won't have any two-part videos. And as inevitable as it seems, though I don't normally get sick, I am starting with a sore throat today. So hopefully, I'm going to go buy some Halls right now and hopefully deal with this problem before it becomes a full-blown cold. After a little bit of Listerine and one Hall, I'm already starting to feel better. Hopefully it stays that way. Settled on Cora's. Yum yum. Ridiculous fruit cocktail. Back from Cora's. So full. Sarah is too, but she's hiding from the camera now. She doesn't want to be on there.
Candy.
And now we're going for candy. Freak lunchbox. Yeah. Yay for random trips to freak lunchbox. Sarah can't even get hers closed anymore. We're now dress shopping. I have to say it's hilarious to watch the excitement. Alright, so Sarah's at work now. Kevin and I are waiting for the elusive 52. The 52, you know, the bus that should come but never does. We're going to be late tonight. Yay, the bus finally came. Crazy bus ride later. We're here at the Maxwell's Plum. Good place to drink. I don't know how the food's going to taste. Kayla's taking pictures of me. Not quite a mighty feast, but still poutine nonetheless. Okay, so now we're outside the, well, you can't really see it from here, the clock tower. We're in the bottom of Citadel Hill, waiting around like a bunch of douchebags.
Now this is the first, the oldest, and the longest running ghost walk in North America. We've been doing it for 20 years now, and we've taken tens of thousands of people out onto it. But I have to be honest with you right from the start. No one's actually got their full money's value on this tour. Because no one's ever seen a ghost. Not yet, anyway. Until tonight, of course. But something strange happened a couple years ago. I was taking a group about this size one night, and halfway through that tour, 2 members of that group disappeared. Yes, that's right. We're on that tour. They did disappear, vanishing before our very eyes, without paying me first. And it was when he returned from that search that something strange. His dog was outside the door, though he had left his friend on the inside and had barred him from escaping. And his friend was whining, and the dog never cried, only in times of extreme duress, fearing the worst. Knowing of these men of ill repute who frequented the island, he very carefully searched the perimeter of that tiny building. And then, even more delicately, he opened the door to that tiny hut. And there, inside, warming her hands over the fire, saw a very strange woman. She had a very pale face and she wore tattered grey robes, and he noticed that as she was warming her hands over the fire, one of her fingers was missing, and then it was all bloodied. And upon seeing this, his first reaction was to exclaim, "Madam, who are you? Where have you come from? I see you're wounded. I'll get my medical kit." So he grabbed for his medical kit, but as he did so, she ran out the door. He pursued after her, running along the beach for quite some distance, where at one point, when she hit the Atlantic waters, when she touched our Atlantic shoreline, she just disappeared, vanishing before our friend's very eyes, which didn't meet his fancy. So he returned to his room early that evening, and when he did so, when he opened the door to his room, he saw sitting at the foot of the other bed in his room, there were 2 beds in this room, a young man. And this man got up and introduced himself as Mr. Cushman. Mr. George Cushman was this man's name. It seems that Mr. Cushman was the son of a wealthy merchantman from the United States, and also an amateur artist who had come up to our waters for some business. Now, after some casual conversation between the 2 acquaintances, Mr. Cushman, the American, handed our friend a series of sketches produced on paper in large format. sketches of pencil paper. And our friend Mr. Irving took the sketches and began to look at them. And Mr. Cushman said, "You can keep them. I'm just using them as exercises to rehearse my skill." So our friend Mr. Irving sat down at the foot of his bed and began to review all these drawings. And they were all nicely done. But he stopped when he came to one particular sketch. The sketch was of a woman he had seen recently in his travels somewhere. He was somehow struck by her. It wasn't her beauty. It wasn't that at all. Something else very bizarre. Anyways, he couldn't remember who she was or where he had met her, but he thought he would keep the drawing, and maybe at a later date he remembered who she was. So he rolled it up, he wrapped it in tissue paper, and then put the drawing into the closet of that room. And then shortly thereafter, both men fell asleep. Now, on the following morning, our friend Mr. Irving, the Englishman, woke up very early. So early, in fact, that the sun had not yet risen, and he looked over to his newly found companion, Mr. Cushman. The American should have been sleeping, to find that he was not there. And in fact, there was no sign of him ever having been there. There was not a wrinkle on this man's bed, nor were any of his belongings left in the room. And since it was so early, he thought that perhaps he'd been robbed. So quickly he checked all his belongings. Fine, though, that everything was intact. So he decided to go downstairs, to wake the proprietor up and ask him what had happened to his friend who had come up from the United States on that night before, and why he had left so suddenly throughout the course of the night. But as he reached for the door which led out of his room, he realized that the door was deadbolted from the inside, and there was no way that this man could have exited via this door, but somehow bolted from the exterior corridor. Now his curiosity was piqued. There was only one other exit in this room. Way in the opposite wall, there was a tiny window. Maybe for some strange reason he had exited via this window. So he went over to it to try to open it. But it wouldn't open. It wouldn't budge. You see, it was never designed to open. Plus, it was 2 stories up. Plus, it was too small. Failing that, he did then and there go downstairs to wake the proprietor up, and he asked him what had happened to his friend who had come up from the United States on that night before. And the proprietor responded, I am sorry, sir, that my friend did not come up from the United States last night. There was no one in that room there with you. And our friend Mr. Irving said, well, yes, of course it was. It was a young man from the United States. His name was Cushman, I believe. Mr. George Cushman was his name. And as soon as he said that name... Now, that woman was so horrified by what she had just seen then and there, so devastated by what she had just saw, that for the remainder of her life, her jaw remained lowered in a fixed position. She wore a ghastly expression of horror on her face, and she never again spoke another word, not only about this affair, but if nothing else, for the remainder of her days. For her final days, she remained a mute to the end, and for this very bizarre condition, she spent the remainder of her days at Nova Scotia Mental Institute, where you can go see her images and records today there, as I have. And it was then and there who our friend Mr. Irving, the Englishman, realized who that sketch was of he had kept in the night before. The sketch was of a woman he had seen to see his friend, the recent immigrant, the doctor from England, at the Nova Scotia Mental Institute. And he remembered seeing this certain woman walking the corridors at certain evenings, and he remembered then and there being struck not only by her beauty, but also by this horrible look that she wore before her face. And he knew then and there that whatever caused this look must have been something, it must have been something truly terrible.
So we finished the Halifax Ghost Walk, and now we're going back home. It's pretty cold. We've been in the cold for a while, so I can't wait to be warm. And yeah. Alright, back from the Ghost Walk. It's been a long day. I'm going to post my first vlog in a minute. The day hasn't exactly gone the way I had planned, but that's the way things work sometimes. It's been a really good day, though. I can't complain about anything too loudly. No one will listen. I don't know. Kevin, you have a good day?
I was fucking cold.
Yeah, we were outside the Ghost Walk for about 3 hours, and it was in the wind the whole time, no protection, all that fun stuff. So basically, any tourists interested in the Halifax area, when they're having it, it's not an every week event, but when they have the Halifax Ghost Walk, if you're in the Halifax area, you should give it a check. It's only $10. It was actually really awesome. There's a lot of history involved in there. And if you're not a tourist, you should still check it out if you haven't seen it. See you guys tomorrow.
Open your eyes.